Hello, good evening. Welcome to another episode of That Millwall Podcast, your Friday night episode of That Millwall Podcast before the Sunderland game. We return from international duty. You'll notice that Mickey is not in the hot seat. Omar is not in the hot seat. It is me, joined by Stephen. How are you, Stephen?
It's almost as if the understudies have become the main act, shall we say. Although we may be joined by one of them a bit later on. I'll leave the listeners in suspense as to which one. But good evening to everybody in the chat. There's a few messages coming through, so we'll let those filter. And good evening, Jay.
Yeah, no, wicked. We're going to touch on the international break, a couple of good performances, a couple of players got some minutes on the pitch, and then we will look at what is supposed to be a big sellout tomorrow. Sunderland have sold out. We've got 1,000 tickets left, which was the last update. Should be a good game. Should be a very horrible day as well. There is a storm incoming, but we will visit all of that and your comments straight after this.
Language you don't usually hear on television. Millwall in London's Dockland.
No one likes us, but we don't care. We're That Millwall Podcast. Loud every Friday night right here. Legends like Jimmy Abdul take a share of the kitchen too. Super Neil Harris a fucking legend too. Through the good times when the strife will support the Lions all our life. This ain't no place for fancy feet. This is fucking Millwall through and through. Located on our very own John Ferguson way. Let them all come, let them have their say. Millwall till we die. With That Millwall Podcast.
Hello, welcome back. It is me, Jay, joined by the one and only Mr. Stephen Jones. There is no Mickey. There is no Omar yet. Evening, everybody. Evening, Paul, Andrew, Daniel, Fish, Mittens TV. Chris, good evening, mate. Your Lions are doing really, really well. Hopefully the other Lions do really, really well tomorrow. Dan Riggs, Daily Millwall, and Peter, everyone else. So, let's touch on the international break so far, Stephen. It's gone. We haven't got one until March. Thank God for it. I don't know about the rest of the chat, but you and I are certainly happy that it's over.
Yeah, it's just you can't. It's not the same. You don't get yourself up for the England game. You do it maybe in tournament football. I do love watching them in the tournaments, and we'll never sort of go against that. But the proper football's back, and it's that nice spell in it. You go 4 games or 4 weeks. International break, 4 games, international break. Now we've got 4 months of solid Millwall, which is just perfect.
No, exactly. And a couple of the youngsters, they was away on international duty. Fingers crossed. I haven't really had the report or seen anything of any injuries or anyone coming back a bit untoward for tomorrow. So it all looks good. But Serbia, they played in the international break. They played their last game against Denmark, and our very own Ivanovic got himself some minutes. He come on late in the game in the 82nd minutes for Zikovic and put himself about a bit and put himself in the shop window, no doubt.
Yeah, do you know what? I know we've spoken a load of comments about him, people talking at the ground and comments and posts on social media. I think he might be a little bit better than what we might think. I'm not saying people don't think he's a good player or there's a prospect, but Serbia are, let's be honest, they're not a powerhouse of European football, but they do have some good players, and they are a country that you'd think I wouldn't want to have too many games against them in knockout football. They've got that sort of dirty style. So I think he's better than what we might give him maybe some credit for, or he's better than maybe what we even think ourselves. But good him to get minutes is good for us. That the recruitment team have brought him in. That might instantly put any money on a transfer fee later down the line because he's now a fully fledged international. So happy days.
Exactly. And he didn't really get any minutes in the games leading up to the international break. So I bet he's chomping at the bit to come back. But someone who does get a lot of minutes internationally and does get a lot of minutes for us, Romain Esse, for the England, as they call it, elite squad now. For those of you who don't know, it is the under-20s. They've made it sound really, really fancy. But elite squad is fitting for an elite player because he was, I watched the game against Germany just to watch him, and he was electric. And the goal he scored, drop of his shoulder, cuts inside and finesses it, proper FIFA style, into the bottom right-hand corner of the keeper's right. And it's just, Again, though, in the position where he was at in the 10, where he picked that ball up and dropped inside, a lot of his goals for us this season have come from that position, drifting inside as well. What a player he is. And sadly, it is, as we talk, it is the 22nd of November. We only got 5, 6 weeks left of seeing this kid in action for us.
The biggest problem that we've got with Romain Esse is we all know how good he is, and we've all been saying how good he is for a long time. The problem now is that other people are starting to see how good Romain Esse is.
Yeah.
I'll have to try and find it, but there's a guy on Twitter. I shared the tweet after the under 20s elite game, that he said that before the game he was told to look out for 3 players, and one of them scored, and it was Romain Esse was the one that he was referring to. Other people who are not Millwall fans are starting to see how good he is, and when other fans are spotting, I think Stoke even that last 2 weeks ago there was comments going that Romain Esse, that number 25, that everyone's starting to see it now. I don't think, I'm going to go out all on a limb here, I don't think the club will sell him in January. But you can quote me on that. You can shoot me. You can give me pelters in January if he does go. But I think he'll be here for the rest of the season. But
I hope so.
That'll be it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think we see him at all after this season, and let's hope he keeps that trajectory. I mean, a good case scenario would be while he's on a high, you sell at a high, and then we get him back on loan, for instance. That would be a nice thing for us. But look, what he's going to do, what he's done for this club as a player so far this season is nothing compared to what he's going to do for the club for not being here. He's actually going to help the club more not being at the club than he ever will. And this is going to set the club up for the future. This is a massive time in his life, a time in our lives as Millwall Football Club, because we're probably looking at money we never have dreamt of seeing for a player at this club. So, yeah, full credit to him. Hopefully he comes back healthy and everyone else does, because there is other players out there. Saville, we know Saville goes every time, and no doubt he'll play 90 minutes as well. For some reason, that guy just finds energy from somewhere, even though when he looks like he needs a break. But we'll get through to some of your comments now, because we're going to touch on Sunderland. But before we do that, yeah, look, Sunderland are coming down tomorrow. We've won 16 games, lost 14. We've drawn 12. We haven't beaten them at the Den since 2004, as Bobby does put out here, but Bobby doesn't actually say 2004. That doesn't say at home. He doesn't. He just says in general. So, yeah, Bobby, I second that sentiment.
And also, what I would say, we also had a massive spell in between then and only a couple of years ago where we weren't in the same league.
We weren't in the same division. Yeah, exactly.
So,
but we did beat them the last time out when we was away from home. A Dan Ballard own goal, former Millwall defender. It is set to be quite a really bad day. I've been checking the weather reports, and there's been alerts coming out. And as Mike Blackledge says here, that the weather conditions are going to be apparently horrific tomorrow, but they have got 9 players out. As Dan says here, look, they're there for the taking tomorrow. 9 players out. They're missing Joe Bellingham. They're missing that other winger they got who keeps scoring all their goals. Can't pronounce his name. But is this a game that if we don't pick up the win, considering their drop of form, they've got a few draws, they didn't really travel well down to the capital last time out, should we be going to beat these tomorrow? I think we should. I think we should be ironing them out, personally.
It's a really interesting one, because if you look at the table, you'd say if we don't lose, it's another team at the top of the division that haven't beat us.
Yeah,
great. The fact, I mean, I saw that the official report is that it's 5 out, but we know that there's others that are injured that are probably it's gonna be up at the 9-10. You know, taking it all into consideration, I think we'd be disappointed if we don't win the game tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean,
unless something drastic happens with our team selection. If they're missing 9 players from their first team squad, you think about if we were missing 9 first team players across the squad, how our team and bench would look. I know they might be considered a bigger club, they might be considered more resources, things like that. I think we'll be disappointed. I said it in the chat earlier this morning when we were sort of talking about the weekend and upcoming fixtures, that this week we really could put ourselves in a really good position. We've got 3 winnable games. Nobody's really going to fancy coming to the Den at the moment after what happened prior to the international break, and then 2 away games that you'd fancy us. I know we all say what our Millwall, we go and beat the good teams and lose to the teams at the bottom of the league. I'll be disappointed if we don't win the game tomorrow. I think most of the fans would.
Yeah, I did an interview for Roker Report, which is a Sunderland podcast, and they asked a similar question. Look, what's it like at the Den, and what do you think the outcome will be? And without giving away my prediction, because we'll do that later, I sort of said along the lines of, look, you are missing key players, and this is a good time for Millwall. We started indifferently. We went from 2 wins in 10. It's a bit of, not real camaraderie or understanding between the board, between Harris, between the players, few injuries. That's completely coin flipped on his head. We've gone from 2 wins in 10 games to 3 wins in 10 days at one point, and we're getting healthier. Players are coming back. Harris seems to start ticking with the board, ticking with the players. It all seems to be one nice smooth cauldron that's brewing down at the Den at the moment. And with the players they got missing and Millwall at home, I don't think anybody, even the biggest skeptic or the biggest sort of downer, if you want to put it, or negativity, I don't think anybody will put Millwall down as really a favourite to lose tomorrow. I think Sunderland are there for the taking, and I do think if we do win tomorrow, like you said, these next 3 are massive. We could really put ourselves in a promotion shout, because we're arguably the best point of the season for that, but we're also at the best point as a club in terms of players coming back from injury. People are playing well, the camaraderie, all them things I said. It seems to just be ticking over really, really nicely.
Yeah, and it's really funny because there's been loads of debates about a load of different things. Are we forward planning? Are we looking for now? The board making the right decision? Harris, etc. Ultimately, the league table doesn't lie. Are we considered one of the best 8 teams in the division? Probably not. But the form, the players are performing to a level where they are considered one of the top 8 in the teams. Everything's going well. The injuries one is a big thing for me, because lots of Norwich, for example, have got about 8 first-team players out. Sunderland have got injuries and suspensions. We're in a position at the moment, touch wood and all that, where our players are coming back or they're fitter now. Everything's moving in the right direction. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say that we're going to put together a top 6 challenge. I think it'd be silly to do that. But I cannot we cannot underestimate just what could happen if we keep some of these key players fit, just where we could end up with this team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, I think you're right as well. This is normally the time of year where we're the ones on the end of suffering for injuries. Leading into December, people are beaten up. We lose players for injury, but we sort of started like that. Whereas everyone else is now playing catch up. They're getting the injuries, which you expect at this time of year. The fixtures come thick and fast, international football, and you expect to pick up knocks. We've reversed it, and we're now getting healthy. You got Billy Mitchell coming back, who's going to be, me and even yourself, Stephen, to an extent, I'm fucking chairman of the Billy Mitchell fan club. I think what he's going to do for that midfield in terms of pushing them to keep their game at a high level and enabling Harris to rest him, or rest Casper, rest Saville when needed during these congested fixtures is massive, absolutely massive. Coburn back as well. It's massive. We're really healthy at the right time, and no one would want to play us. I think Sunderland would probably look at the fixture list, and if there's one place they don't want to visit when they're on a little bit of a lull, is Millwall. I think everyone in the league is probably looking at this is probably one of the top 3 places to go. We're top 3 in the entire EFL for form at the moment. We really are doing some good stuff, and that's credit goes round to everyone.
Absolutely. There's a few comments in the chat about our disciplinary record and about Tanganga. According to the Sky Sports website, Tanganga has 3 bookings, so he isn't 1 game away from a suspension, for those that are talking about that. Leonard and George Honeyman are on 4 bookings, so they will be one match away from a booking. But Tanganga, according to Sky Sports, is only on 3. I just wanted to put that in there because there's a few people that are commenting on that. And yeah, as I say, everything's going in the right direction, Jay. I don't think we can underestimate the fact as well that after 2 games, this team had conceded 7 goals. And everyone Jensen was getting pelters. Don't get me wrong, the first game, let's be honest, it was shocking. It was. There's no 2 ways about it. But since then, since the return of Jaff as well, we all know how good he is, that we are a team that, especially at home, I think you're right what you say. If Sunderland could have picked or had the opportunity, we would have been right at the bottom of the list for an away game after the international break. No one would want to come to. Let's be honest. They could turn up and play well, still win the game, blah blah blah, all of that jazz. But no one wants to come to the Den at the moment, and that's how it should be. That's how it should be, regardless of whether Harris is in charge, whether Joe Edwards was in charge, or any other managers. That's how it's got to be.
Yeah, and I think it's a good time for us as well. We've just come back from the international break, so there's a lot of time for Harris to prepare for this game. He understands the magnitude of it because it will be. I mean, you look at the top 4 at the moment. We haven't played Sheffield United yet, and we play Sunderland tomorrow, but Leeds didn't beat us. Burnley haven't beat us. West Brom haven't beat us. It's Swansea never beat us. Stoke haven't beat us. These teams that are in the top half of the table around us, we're taking points from them. We should be giving ourselves the credit for where we are. We shouldn't look at it as, maybe we're in a false position. We strung some good results together. We're well due for them points. We earned every single one of them points. Teams didn't give them to us. And it is a testament, like you said, shipped 2 goals in 7 games, unbeaten, one loss in 9. It's really good times at the moment. And I just worry that sometimes you can do too much of something that you get it so wrong. I hope Harris just keeps it to what's been working. Don't say too much. You shouldn't have to say too much to a Millwall side to get them up for a game at the Den, especially a big game like this, which is a big game. It's almost going to be a sellout. So I would be surprised if he had too much to say. So, yeah, but I'm expecting some big things tomorrow. But we'll talk about some of the players that have come back, and we'll look at the fixture. We'll look at the formation, and we want your thoughts as well, because there's been a few comments, which I'm sure most of you know where this is going. But we'll start with the elephant in the room. Tom Bradshaw did start against Stoke. Thought we had a pretty good cameo. He's right on the end. If that ball didn't go through to Coburn, he probably scores himself. But your thoughts on the striker position, because now what we've gone from bad problems in the past to having no options, we've probably gone a complete reversal to having too many, and Harris could out-coach himself if he makes a wrong choice. And he's got the option to go 2 up top now. So do we think he goes back to 2 up top?
Well, he did against Stoke, which I was quite surprised that was the game. I know he had the players fit and he probably wanted to get him some minutes. But I'm surprised he went for the 2 up front, especially after being on the run that we'd been on with the 1 up front and the sort of number 10. But, we didn't lose the game. And I think everybody expected us to probably go there, and it was 1 game too far. So, is what and we probably should have won the game. Your question you put was in the chat was, do I think Tom Bradshaw will start tomorrow? Yes, I do, but I don't think he should.
Yes,
I would go with, if we're going to go 2 up front, I would go with Coburn and Langstaff.
Yeah.
As my 2. I think that could work. They could work really well, because Langstaff is basically a younger version of Tom Bradshaw. He's willing to do the running, the fox in the box, waiting for the chance, probably more likely to score the chance than Tom. And I think Coburn is Harris's first choice. I think Coburn is the experience. I know he's not old, but he's got a bit more championship experience than what perhaps Ivanovic has got. As much as we'd all like to see the Serb, I don't think Harris sees him as a starter. And I think Coburn and Langstaff are the perfect 2. I just don't think we're going to see it.
No, and I think Coburn is the main man. I think Harris, we noticed it with Harris's intent to go after him. You know, it was very apparent how much he likes Coburn, and you know, great scouting, because he's, in my opinion, he's a very, very good player. He's got 2 goals in 3 starts. He's a big handful. He looks a bit lanky. Looks like he's not that kind of physical striker, not like a Mitrovic. He's a bit more like a Peter Crouch, but he has got it in him. He holds the ball up. I thought when he come on against Leeds, I thought he was fantastic against Leeds. What he did to help us see that game out. Outside of the game he scored, I thought that was one of the better all-round striker performances we've seen at them for quite some time. To see the game out the way he did, he definitely starts. We won't go into the rest of the team just yet, but I did want to ask you, going back to the yellow cards, if you had an option of who to get a yellow card to miss the game out of Honeyman and Leonard, say the 2, we won't go into Tanganga because it's not Tanganga, but if the referee was to issue one out, who's it go to? Who would you rather miss? And get in the chat. Who do you think we could do without more so, Leonard or Honeyman?
I feel like I'm going to be a little bit biased here, but I think Honeyman, I would rather have Honeyman booked than Ryan Leonard. In saying that, if Leonard was booked, you do have Danny Mack to fill in at right back, and then Brian would come in at left back. I understand that we've got a natural replacement for that position, but in my opinion, if you lost Honeyman, you'd have our best player technically, potentially in his best position. So for me, I think Honeyman all day long.
Yeah. And would you, what about this then? Because a few people have mentioned it, and B Lion says it, and it has been mentioned a few times, dropping Honeyman into the 10 and playing on that last man as a bit of a false sort of striker. He can link up with Coburn, but also he's got that energy, he's got that pace, he's got that grit to do sort of Honeyman's job. I'm not 100% against it, but I think it could be a shrewd move if Harris ever wanted to do that. But I would probably just move SA into the 10, to be honest. That would be the best bet for me.
Yeah, I mean, bloke's got 100 goals in 3 seasons, and people want to put him in the number 10 and have him asking him to drop back and do some midfield work. I get the call to try and get him in the team, but if you're going to put him in the team, go 2 up front. Yeah. You've got to go 2 up front. I think a bit of an odd one, because if you're looking to try and fill the hole with a play, you're almost putting him into the Aidan O'Brien category. Aidan O'Brien was never a left winger, because Harris had 2 players up front. He desperately wanted to play O'Brien, so he put him out on the left. With Langstaff, I think if you're playing him, you've got to get him up the pitch in a centre forward position.
Yeah, I think he's a confidence player as well. I think he needs a goal. After he got his goal earlier on, he looked really, really good. I don't know, none of us know what's gone on behind closed doors. If, I don't imagine Langstaff is too happy with being benched for Bradshaw, but maybe it was just to get that extra bit of rest for Langstaff, who, as you know, it's a big step for him, and he can sort of reassess and reevaluate in the window. But I like this comment from John. It's Ivanovic and Langstaff will be the partnership next season. Bradshaw and Coburn are filling in for this season while the former pair go up to speed. I think there is an element to that. I do think there is a strong element to that. And it does need to be managed, because we have got a striker who's come from overseas very, very young, hasn't played at this level ever. He's played at probably much lower level than the Championship. And obviously Langstaff's played in League Two. Do you think they're going to be that close and it's going to be them? Because I think Harris goes after Coburn in the window.
I'll answer that in a second, but just on that point, and to you, Jay, and obviously the guys in the chat, do you think Langstaff was sold that when he was signed, that you're not going to play this year, but we're going to play you next season? Do you think that was put on the table? Because I don't. I certainly don't. Millwall, we've been crying out for a goal scorer for the last 5, 6, 7 years, desperately looking for a striker. We go and buy one, but we tell him that he's not going to play for a season. I'm not sure about that. What about you, Jay?
No, 100%. It is a problem for Harris to have four fit strikers, all chomping at the bit, all want game time for various reasons. Bradshaw probably wants his game time because he's putting himself in the shop window. Langstaff wants his game time because he needs it. He needs to get up to speed. And Ivanovic for the same reason. And Coburn, whilst I like him, and many of us do like him, and Harris loves him, he is a mercenary. He is a gun for hire. And, you know, you have to treat him as such because ultimately he isn't one of our own. Don't fall in love with a loan player. We're good at that. Most clubs are good at that. But I do think that, say in January, just for argument's sake, in January, this is what I was just going to come to. If we do sell SA in January, or even if we don't, in fact, let's go to the summer because we'll get Zian Fleming's money in the summer. Say we get 7-8 million for that. Say we get 15 million for SA. Say we offload Tom Bradshaw, we get his wages off the books. We get Kevin Nisbet. Say we offload Kevin Nisbet. That's another striker that's on the books. We offload him. There's a pretty kitty there. I know we've been linked with Peterborough attacking winger Kwame Poku, who is literally Remain SA 2.0 or 1.0 if you like. He's a bit older, but he is banging in goals left, right and centre for Peterborough. We are linked with him. Apparently they want 6 million. With that kitty, you could go and buy Coburn, you could go and get Poku, and you can go and get yourself a nice new shiny centre half or left back or both, and probably another centre midfielder. We're probably setting ourselves up for a really, really good summer. But do you think it is going to be them two next season? Or could you see Ivanovic go out on loan? Could you see even Langstaff not be here? We don't know how this is going to play out for Langstaff or Ivanovic. But ultimately, I think you have to roll with them two next season, surely.
The biggest elephant in the room is we don't know who's going to be the manager.
Yes.
Because and we don't. We've Jay, me and you have been on about. We've had a load of conversations about this on all chats and WhatsApp and that. We don't know who the manager's going to be. So if the manager is Neil Harris, we're going to go all out to get Josh Coburn because he clearly fancies him. But if it's a different manager, that might not be the case. So it's a difficult question. I would love us to, and the plan from the ball is to promote youth and have young players playing. I would love us to have a forward line of Ivanovic with Aziz in there, SA in there, Langstaff. I know he's not young, but I'd love to have that kind of dynamic, that dynamic forward line. Obviously, we don't know who might be sold, but I wouldn't be against it. But it all depends on, as I say, is Neil Harris going to hand over to a new person and say, right, this is what I've built, and the new person's going to come in and go, right, I want them too young. I want Ivanovic up front, and I want Langstaff in the team with him. Is Harris going to stay and we go out for Coburn, or is it going to be completely different and Harris is forced into playing the younger players? It's a really right now. It's too difficult to answer the question. You've
also got to look at as well, like if Harris isn't the manager next season, he's leaving the club in. Ultimately, we can only talk off of, as things stand. This is reactive. Football's reactive. But as things stand, if Harris leaves and we finish in this position, he's going to leave another manager with all this young talent, this kitty of millions of pounds to spend. I think based on what's happening at the club now, it'd be very hard done by not to allow him to go with that, because he's clearly identified some good players, clearly identified some players that we never looked at as fans. We never thought about Josh Coburn before it was rumoured. We never thought about Femi Aziz before it was rumoured. We never thought about Kwame Poku. Harris is clearly identifying these, and I think you have to let him, come good on that. You have to give him the opportunity to spend some of that money, because ultimately he would have been the one that's put us in a position to obtain that sort of money by allowing SA to develop here. Zian Fleming obviously probably wasn't a Harris decision, but the club have done that. So we're going to have a bit of a kitty to play with. And if Harris does keep this up and Mill will keep this up, I don't want to turn this into a Harris show. We do that every week. We're going to not do that. But if we do keep this up as Millwall Football Club and we have this money, who better than someone who's already identified players and allowed the club to get this investment through his management of these players than Neil Harris. But as you've noticed, I was going to bring him on with a nice little intro, but he just threw himself straight in there. That Millwall Podcast royalty is back in the saddle. Omar, good evening, mate. How are you? Thanks for
Good
joining.
evening, mate. I'm all right. Thank you for let me call you guys a bit later on today. I was going to let you bring me in, but I was like, I want to be ready, so I'm here, and then you can introduce me and bring me into your mid-flow. And then you're talking about being a Harris theme show. I mean, I've joined at the perfect time, but no, we won't go into that anyway. But yeah, how's everyone going? How's the chat? And hello everyone.
Yeah, all good. And like I say, we just touched on the international break. ASA performed. Ivanovic got some minutes. And now we've turned our attention to Sunderland. Sunderland, the team that have got allegedly 9 players out. They've hit a bit of a lull in form, a few draws. They've only lost 2 this season, but they come to a rocking den tomorrow, sold out then. Off the back of an international break where I'm sure Harris, the players, and the fans are chomping at the bit to get down to. We've given our thoughts. The chat have given their thoughts. Your thoughts on tomorrow, mate, without giving too much away for our predictions later. How do you see this playing out? And it's going to be a really shit day. It's proper, and I'm going to do Millwall bingo here. It's setting up for a Millwall-ness type of game tomorrow. Take that one off the list.
Yeah, I mean, international breaks always there's always that question: is it come at a good time? Does it come at a bad time? Ultimately, we was in good form. No one probably wanted to come after it did. We got that draw at Stoke, didn't we? And obviously went into the international break. I think they're not in good form of late. They've got injuries. I don't know how much you guys have spoken about that just yet, but I'm sure we'll talk about it for more details as we go on anyway. But it's obviously got to be a sellout by the looks of it. Under 1,000 tickets left. I think Mill put out a little bit earlier tonight. So all that is pointing to a Millwall type, a Millwall-ness, a Millwall kind of something performance tomorrow where the atmosphere is intimidating. We're making that place we want it to be. They've got a lot of young players. Can we introduce them to what it's like to play away at the Den, and hopefully capitalise on that really and to continue our good form? I'm a bit anxious because international break is always one of those ones. I do feel like we shouldn't have waited to come at that time. But listen, I'm hopeful, excited. At the same time, I know what to expect of Millwall at the best of times. So we'll see.
No,
just on that.
Go on, Steve.
Sorry, Jay. Just on that. Obviously, Omar, you went to Stoke. I imagine most of the chat watched it. It was on TV. It's interesting you said there that you felt the international break come at the wrong time, because I actually thought, whilst we probably should have won the game, at the end of the game, the players looked absolutely shattered.
Yeah,
they looked spent. I actually think the fact we didn't lose the game and we went into the break unbeaten, I actually see it that it come through at the right time. I don't know what you think on the physical side of the game.
Yeah, I do get that a little bit. Obviously, Harris made a lot of changes throughout the 3 games, didn't he, that week, really? So, he brought Tom Bradshaw back into the side. Let's throw that one out into the chat again. And he made changes to the team. So, I think he has that squad to cope with the fixture run. I think you're right. Getting a draw, kind of maybe clinging on at the very end, you could say. I think probably we had the chance to win it with Aziz in the second half and stuff as well. I think, yeah, like you said, you had a good run of form. I think if you're a manager, I feel like that's what they'd say. They wait just to continue until you lose, until you get that kind of real kind of hurdle in the way, so to speak. And I don't think that came. So I do think if Harris had a choice, he would have probably kept them coming. I think, especially a 2-week break, players go away on international duty. Players got maybe pick up injuries or anything could happen whilst they're away. So I don't know. I think I do get your point though, Stephen. There's a chance to regroup and go again on the training pitch and focus on the next block of games, and hopefully that is what happens. But I can see the fear of that in a sense as well at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, we said earlier that Stephen touched on it, that a lot of teams now, especially Sunderland. I mean, I'm just going to go through the list. Joe Bellingham out, very key player. Romain Mundle out, monster player for them. Alan Brown out, key player. Patrick Roberts out. Trey Hume out. Salis Abdul Samad out. Ian Poveda out. Ahmed Abdullahi out. Jensen Silt out. And Niall Huggins out. That is a crucifying injury list for Sunderland. And Stephen touched on it earlier that Norwich and a few other clubs have got to this stage of the season and their injuries are riddled. That's normally the time of the season, this time leading up to Christmas, where you get the injury bug coming because there's a lot of fixture congestion in national breaks. Normally happens to us heavily. We flipped it on its head, whereas we got all our injuries at the start of the season. And now the international break, I agree with Stephen, to be honest, that I do think it come at the right time because players were starting to get tired and we're getting players back from injury now. We got Billy Mitchell coming back, Mayer coming back. There's players back now. We're at our healthiest where other teams are at their weakest, as evidently shown by Sunderland's squad for tomorrow. This is a good place to be at the moment for Millwall.
I think you're right. All the momentum. I think everything for me is just the momentum, keep it going, and I think that'll be the key tomorrow. I think also, if I'm not mistaken, Sunderland got one of the lowest average age teams in the league, and we've got one of the highest average age teams in the league.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a boys against men sort of performance, and I think that's what we've got to play on. We've got to play on, like, this is men's football. Welcome, let's make it that kind of atmosphere and that kind of match, really, and we will be like that. We'll be up and at them, won't we? Let's be honest. And yeah, I think you're right. It is pointing to all positive signs. We've got great options off the bench. Harris has turned into the team command, but we're not losing games, so we're going to let him make as many changes as he wants. He can make 11 changes as long as we win. I don't really care. We'll all talk about it before the game. We'll talk about it after the game, but as long as we get the results and performances to back it up, then it's all that really matters, really.
No, exactly. And you can look at, if like Stephen said earlier, this is key couple of games coming up, because if we do go and beat Sunderland, and then we go and beat Portsmouth, a team that we're meant to beat in this position, a team in this position of the table should be beating teams like that. If we can pull this off, you have to start looking at us in a different light. We have to stop looking at ourselves as a false position, as you would do, as we normally do. We don't quite fit in. Everyone's having coffee and we're having tea at the table at the top. And you have to start putting us in that conversation. We're in top 3 form in the entire EFL. We've conceded 2 goals in 7 games. We've lost 1 in 9. There's camaraderie between Harris and the board, which had to happen. That's happened. There's camaraderie between the fans and the players. That's always been there. But there's camaraderie within the club itself. Everyone is moving in the right direction. And coming up to Christmas is literally, this time of year makes or breaks team seasons. We've seen it for us. We normally go on good runs at Christmas. We did it last year under Joe Edwards. We did it the year before. And right when we beat, Burnley, and we had a really good run at Christmas. This is a key time, a real key time, because if you can come out of Christmas still within a shot of the playoffs, that's got to be the goal. Staying up has been achieved. You have to start looking above.
I agree.
Yeah,
I think. Question, sorry, Steve, just interrupt. Sorry, just before you go. Well, how many points would we take this week coming up to this run of games? Because I'll be honest with you, if you said to me 4 or 5 points, I'd be happy with 4 or 5 points. You've won 1. They're not going to be 2. I know they're 2 teams lower down, but there's 2 tough away games nonetheless. Portsmouth away, league game. It's going to be, the atmosphere is going to be electric. And then you've got Oxford. That's always going to be a bit of a tricky place to go, I think. They play good football as well. It's going to be a tough week. If we've got 5 points in this week, in whichever way that comes, I'll be happy, personally. Keep the unbeaten run going.
Yeah, get it in the chat, guys, as well. How many points are we getting from these 3 games?
Let's not get too carried away as well. Coming from there.
If the ambition, and I think it is, let's be honest, if the ambition is to stay in the division, which is that was Harris's thing at the start of the season. He must have been told by the board, this is the plan, this is what we want you to do, keep us in the division so we can progress from next season. 5 points is, for me, fine. Got no issue with that whatsoever. If the plan has changed, which, as Jay has said, reactive football, that this is what football is. You react on week. If they really want to push the boat out, then you're probably looking at a little bit more. But if we get 5 points from this week, I think then we'll be in a good position. In terms of final league positions and how well we're playing, I know the stats come out. Jay and I were talking about it earlier in the chat that you look on one website, we're ranked certain position. You look on another website, we're ranked in another position. But much like I said, that other fans are starting to notice Remain Essay, other fans are starting to notice that Millwall are not the Millwall team of old. We're not you don't get as many managers come out and say, oh, they're physical. The use of the long ball, the those kind of comments that every manager used to say about it. You still get the odd one, but people are starting to notice that there is something going on at Millwall. There is a change. We are evolving. Might be slowly. We might not be up with the Leeds tick-attack of football, but look what that got them at the Den. It got them nothing. So we're starting to, and I honestly think the Sunderland players, the Sunderland fans, they'll obviously, the Sunderland fans are great. They travel well. They make a lot of noise. They'll be looking forward to their day out tomorrow. And why shouldn't they? But they'll be looking at the fixture going, nah, they'd rather play someone else. In my opinion, I don't think they'd want to be coming to the Den tomorrow.
I think we've got also have a bit of, also what I'm very careful of, and I know I'm the one when we was not won a game, and I'm like, you've got to wait to the next international break, and that's what's happened. But I could easily stand on the high horse saying, yeah, fuck me, we're going to keep going. We've got to stay like this as fans. We've just got to stay here. Yeah. And I know that's so difficult as football fans. We're fucking unbelievable at the minute. We're picking up points of fun. But if we lose tomorrow, it's not the end of the world. If we lose 2 games in a row,
yeah.
And I think this is like, it's easy to get carried away and enjoy it. Do you know what? Fuck it. We should be enjoying it. But if we lose tomorrow and we lose Wednesday, it's gonna be okay. Like if we lose 5 in a row, then you start to think, fuck me, we're in trouble. I think sometimes it's like, look at it in batches a little bit. It's kind of just, let's enjoy being, and I think that's, but it's, let's be excited for it. Let's be hopeful tomorrow. But they're still a good side despite their injuries. So it's going to be interesting nonetheless. But I'm trying to stay here.
Aren't you the one that keeps saying Champions League Lions?
No, I think you're confused for another one.
He's not confusing you.
There's 2
Listen,
members
I believe. But I'm not. But this is what I'm saying with it is like.
I agree.
I'm also realistic in my head as well.
Yeah,
I believe that. Fuck me. Do you know what I mean? But I'm realistic that if we got this, I'm saying like 4 points or 5 points from this week. If we won this and drew our away games this week, I'll be happy. I'll be buzzing.
Yeah.
I would.
It's the home form, isn't it? You got to win the games at home.
Turning points at home, nicking points away from home. You're gonna be in the right area come the end of the season, and that for me is the important thing. I think. Do you know what I mean? So.
I mean, you also have to look at our points total now. 23 points, right, after 15 games. We're halfway there to staying up already. You're halfway to that points total where you look at, right, that's where we need to get to. I think I said in our preseason predictions, I said 53, I think I said, or 50, some around 50 to 57, I said. I think it was exactly the same as last year. I'll put the nail on the head. We're halfway there. So, the job is being exceeded because we all thought, most fans thought, we just need to build on last season and we need to just re-establish ourselves in the Championship, stay up comfortably this time, and then go again. And I think because we've achieved that, or we're looking to achieve that, you then have to reassess. And we're in such a good position where everyone is now on the same page. And I say that because we wasn't on this. Is that creamy goodness? Creamy goodness. Because we wasn't on the same page as fans, as manager, as board, everybody. No one was on the same page, and that was evident as to why we only won 2 wins in 10 games. Now everyone's on page. Players come back from injury. Everyone understands. Harris now understands that he's the head coach, not the manager. Gallen now understands Harris's temperament, his mentality, his personality, his respect and demanding within the club. He now understands that. The new players now understand Harris and understand what it takes to play it. And we understand what's going on. And now all that's in place, we're rolling. And that's not a coincidence. This isn't that we've just started playing well. It's taken all them things to fall into place for us to start playing well, for us to do well. Teams that go up and successful teams have to have that behind the scenes. You look at Luton, when Luton went up, a team no one really thought would do anything. Fantastic ownership, good management, everyone on the same page. It's the same thing for every team that wants to do well or does well in these divisions. You have to have that. This is probably the first time in a very, very long time, even within the previous regimes, that we've had this sense of togetherness, and we've had this sense of openness where everyone is openly saying what we think, everyone is openly saying what's needed. We've even heard from Gallen directly about transfers, about the squad, and we've heard about relationships and even the players commending other players and Harris and the training staff and so on. We've got a much more transparency within the club, and that has been key to where we are now. We need to start looking above. For all the skeptics, myself included, I'm a reactive person. Some of you hate me for it. I will react really, really bad when it's bad, but I will react really, really good when it's good. I get too high and I get too low. I do that. Omar's the opposite. Omar is high all the time. In the state of Colorado, he would be their favourite person, right? If he walks the street of London, he's getting arrested. Okay, Stephen's very in the middle. Stephen is a little bit more logically, right? And that's fine, but that's what we are as fans. But
what am I then?
No, you're just high all the time. It's Millwall going to win the Champions League, blah, blah. But the point I'm trying to make is, without rambling on to bring you in, is that now everybody, even the fans, are on the same page now. We can all see what's happening. There isn't this Twitter warfare or this group chat warfare. It isn't there anymore. It's gone away because we're all on the same page. And that is key going into this stretch.
On the subject of the club being together, and I was talking about this the other day. I saw a post about, and I think it was a Middlesbrough fan who was talking about it and was saying that to get out of this division, you have to utilise the loan market. You have to be looking at the Premier League and bringing in like if you look at teams that have been promoted over the last couple of seasons, they've all gone into the Premier League, loaned a good player, they've gone into their squads. The name that comes to mind is Amari Hutchinson, who went to Ipswich. They've now signed him, but obviously from Chelsea on loan and got them promoted. We haven't done that. Really, I know we got Callum Scanlon, but he got injured, and Josh Coburn, but we haven't. I don't think we've utilised the loan market this year. They've put trust and faith in our own players that we've signed, and I think to me that's a sign that whilst it might not have worked in the beginning, the trust was there with the board and the players and the management. The results on the pitch might not have been there. Now we're getting that. We're paying dividends because these players. It's not like, for example, you get a loan player and you're thinking, oh, he's not going to be here come January because he's going to get called back, or someone's going to come in and buy him and we're going to lose him. These players, most of them, apart from Coburn, are our players. They're playing for our shirt. They want to be there. They want to be part of it. And I personally think it's a really good thing. Risk and reward, because it could have gone the other way, but they're playing for the club because they're Millwall players. They're not going to go back to their parent club and just get a nice fancy move somewhere else easy.
Probably the first season in a long time where we haven't actually been like that. We haven't relied on a loan player. We haven't had the worry of a team coming in and taking back their loan player or being outbid for a player. We, like you said, we're nurturing our own, and our own squad is more than good enough. But that leads us nicely on.
It's probably not far away from the season where we nearly got in with Ben Marshall on loan. That was the only loan player we had. Yeah. And who was in charge again that time? Just putting out there, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, no, you're right. In that first season we come up, we nearly made another run at it again. But talking to the sense of loans then, because January is a touchy time. We are coming up to January. Do we dip into the loan market? I personally, if we don't sell SA, don't want to buy any players. I don't want to just spend unnecessary money for the sake of spending it. I'd rather go and get a loan centre half, a young Premier League centre half with some promise to fill in the background, maybe a winger or something like a central midfielder. What are we doing in January? Because it keeps popping up that Crystal Palace keep reported. Crystal Palace may swoop for SA in January. How would you manage that?
Well, if all it takes is signing Ben Marshall, we go and get him. He ain't doing much at the moment, is he?
I can't see us letting him go in January. I can see us doing a deal to sell him in January. But if we're in a position where we've got something to play for, and it looks like we'll still be in amongst it come January, I can't see us shooting ourselves in the foot with a chance of really playing something in the second half of the season. It'll be good for him as well in his development. And I'm sure Palace would think that. It just depends what kind of situation Palace are in at the time. They seem to have started off really poor. They've won a couple of games, haven't they, recently of late, and seem to have kind of distanced themselves, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I could be completely wrong because I don't really give two fucks about the Premier League. But I think if we're clever here, we keep hold of him as a player at least at the end of the season. I think you've got, like what Fisherman's just said here, you've got to get a centre half in. Yeah, I think probably a loan from a centre half. Someone's out of favour elsewhere, that could come in and do a job and be a rivalry for Cooper or Tanganga. You want someone that's versatile that can play on both positions, I think, because the colour we've got there otherwise isn't great. So that's the only thing that's worrying in my head. So you need someone to play both sides centre half. Not easy to come by, but maybe someone with a bit of experience, maybe. I don't know, someone that's got a bit of know-how to go over the line in the Championship. But it doesn't necessarily have to be a youngster because they're going to come in and be raw and make mistakes. So it's a tricky one. I think we signed Alex Pearce, didn't we, a few years ago? I'm not saying Alex Pearce is that kind of mould, though. Someone that's a bit experienced and, he played for Derby, he played for teams in the Championship. I think he even played in the Premier League at one point, Alex Pearce. So,
similar to when we signed Sean Derry as well.
Yeah,
Exactly
I
the
think
same
even
scenario,
Jason
you
Shackle.
know.
We had Jason Shackle one year, I remember as well. Do you remember we had Jason Shackle? You know,
Just
players like that,
experienced players, yeah.
players
to
that
see
come
you
in
over
like
the
that
edge.
and still could do a job, as opposed to like Sean Hutchinson, because Hutchinson's
Yeah.
obviously gone too much the other way at this point. But I do think maybe I'd be trying to think of some of that sort of angle personally. But
Yeah.
see who's available. It depends
I
really.
think
And I
that's
think
where we probably lack, though, in this squad, especially in the starting 11, is probably that experience or that deep experience. Because Tanganga's got experience at top level. He's not got experience of a playoff battle in the Championship. For how good he is, his experience is everything. We've got young strikers, young wingers. None of these have had that experience of having to do that. So I think experience is probably something we need to look at in the summer as well as in January. I think we're going to have, like I say, a pretty kitty to spend. And I know that the club want to go and look at young developmental players to sell them on for big money. With that kind of money, you can go and get established, experienced Championship players who are still young, but have played a lot of football, been at the top of the pyramid in the EFL, fighting for promotion. You can go and get them. So it's a good time for us in this coming up windows.
I would go out and say that the centre half definitely need one. Whether you go and buy one or you loan one, whatever you got to do, I think that we need a little bit of cover. Just I think that would calm everybody down, on the what if situation.
That's our biggest weakness in this stretch of games, isn't it?
Yeah,
losing one
is what if.
Yeah.
Then the winger situation for me still, because as much as I'm probably going to get pelters for this, Romain Esse isn't really a winger. He's playing out on the wing, but he's consistently drifting in. Obviously, our best technical player, Aziz, I think is. But outside of those two, I don't think we have anyone really that wants to take anybody. Duncan Watmore will run all day long, but I don't think he's trying to take anybody on. He's just running with the ball.
Yeah.
When I said earlier about I'm not saying this player, but when I mentioned Amari Hutchinson last year for Ipswich, someone from the Premier League, that a tricky winger, and Maku at the moment he's not going to get any playing time. It's so obvious under Harris, it's not going to happen. Loan him out. Don't get rid of him. Keep him on the books and see what happens in the future, and go out and bring in someone, just that little bit more spark, someone else in the squad that can help us. And I think at that point we'd be in a good position. Personally,
I'm not going
out?
to say his name, but there is a winger in the Championship that used to play for us.
Stop it. I
can't help but always bring up. And I'm telling you now, we loan Marku out, we loan Mayer out. You get two youngsters go and play League One or League Two football, whichever level we
get him back.
And then you get this geezer in. And then
Ollie Burke.
Not quite. And then you get this geezer in who plays on the right wing, right, as an option, as amongst them wingers between January and end of the season to help us push on and get over the line.
And he can nurture the youngsters as well.
And I'm telling you now, if you loan out your two youngsters and maybe you've got a deal in principle for SA agreed already and you might have a bit of cash to say, we'll pay his wages for the rest of the season, just fucking do it. Do it. West Brom won't say no to it. They won't say no. If you said we'll pay his wages, and I would, you know what, if we'd done that for the rest of the season, that's your option on the wing. You've got your centre half in there. Charlie Quezwas won't be available. I know his name popped up in there, but if he was suddenly not playing, I'd go for him from Toulouse. Fuck it, why not? Get him on loan as well. Charlie Quezwas and Jed Wallace, then I would be thinking, do you know what? We're going to have our cake and eat it. We're going to fucking win the league, and that's it. It's game over. All right? There you go.
On that note, good night, everybody. We're seeing this now. Right, so on that note of coming ins then, what about going outs? Because, look, we've got Billy Mitchell coming back. Massive, massive key player for me. I will not have any Billy slander. I think we've really missed him. I think Harris has wanted to rest Saville or Casper numerous times in games. I really do. Billy's going to give us that option. Do we send the likes of Massey, of Kelly, them type of players? Do we see people go out in January? I personally think we probably do. Maybe even Ivanovic. Do we see the youngsters go out on loan once we know we're over that hump and we're in, see what position we're in come Jan?
I can't see Ivanovic going out on loan on the basis that Coburn is on loan and can be called back by Middlesbrough at any time. All it takes is for Middlesbrough to get an injury and they go, right, we'll have him back. And if we've loaned out our record signing as well, I just can't see him going. We talk about the elephant in the room. Tom Bradshaw, I think Bradshaw goes in January.
Yeah.
It's obvious. It's an obvious link with Wrexham. I think he goes. I think Amaku goes. I would let Massey go. And dependent on how you're looking in terms of squad fitness and how Mitchell comes back in and plays, I think Kelly going out on loan could be a good idea. I think he's the future, but right now, if he's not playing, you might as well get him some experience.
Knowing how Harris
Yeah.
works, guys, and Harris is a manager that wants to sign players and then ease them into the side. He's never been. Look at the summer signings we made. He didn't throw anyone really into the deep end, apart from Jensen. Right? Is there a fear that if we sign these players, you don't want to make too many changes in January, especially the way we play? You don't want to loan too many out. I agree. Some youngsters need to go and play football. I'll probably get behind the idea of Massey going. I'll probably get behind the idea, like I said, DeMarco and Mayer, because they're never going to feature with Harris by the looks of it. And then, but aside from that, everyone's saying, like, obviously, Murray Wallace, Harding, Bradshaw. There's a lot of, like, if you do such an upheaval in January, you want to kind of keep the nucleus of the squad together, at least for the rest of the season, I think. Especially whilst we've got this momentum going, you don't want to rip it up and have different players coming in that could be bad eggs and all that stuff. And like I said, I think Harris has got a certain style of play. He wants us to play this way, and he wants the players to adopt to it. You're not going to find a ready-made player to go straight into Neil Harris's side typically, unless they're out of favour of other clubs, which isn't normally likely. So just who's on the side of caution. I think it's more what can we add instead of what we're going to lose. I think Deadwood definitely, but like Bradshaw's featuring. I think with Bradshaw, right? I think it's no brainer because if he's on a supposed high wage and his interest. I'd only let him go if he really wants to move, to be honest, because Harris is having him at the minute, and we're doing all right.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of Andy
he's a
here.
favourite.
I think he's. Look, I'm not a massive fan of Bradshaw. I'd much rather Coburn and Langstaff if you could have two up top at the minute. But
100%.
But if the manager's picking them and we're getting results, and the manager wants him around, and Bradshaw doesn't really want the move. He said at the start of the season he's quite happy at Millwall. It's going to be, you don't need to force him out the door for no reason when things are going all right at the minute. That's the only thing.
No, I mean, the answer to Ross, absolutely not a chance in hell does Billy Mitchell go out on loan. Billy Mitchell don't leave this club. Billy Mitchell, for me, is arguably one of the best midfielders at the club. He will push Kaspar to be better than he has been. Kaspar, I don't know for many of you that know, he leads the championship in tackles and interceptions, a side of his game that he has been ridiculed for before. He's been brilliant. And I see a lot of Billy hate on Twitter recently. I think Billy Mitchell's such a fantastic player. He reminds me, he's like a white Jimmy Abdou. Never got the appreciation because he wasn't a great footballer. Jimmy wasn't a good footballer. He just did the job that no one else wanted to do. And every manager that came into the club tried to push Jimmy out, would start to lose games, and they'd realise that there was no one at the club that not only couldn't, but didn't want to do the job that Jimmy was there to do, which was sit on their number 8 or on their best player, break the play up, and just give it to the guy next to him. The typical Livermore Cahill, just break it up, Livers, give it to Cahill, let him do his thing. That's what Billy is to us. He is that Livermore, that Jimmy Abdou. That's what Billy is for us. And I think him coming back is massive. It's massive because outside of Kaspar and Sav, there really hasn't been anybody. I think Wintle was only brought in because of the injury to Mitchell. I think that was a little bit of a panic signing because of how raw Massey and Kelly were, and you didn't want to put too much on their shoulders, and Wintle has got some experience. But no, Billy goes nowhere. Absolutely not goes nowhere. Bradshaw might. Imaku definitely. Imaku goes on loan in January 100%. Murray Wallace probably sees the season out because for how bad Murray Wallace has ended, I mean, he's fell off a cliff, and that's not through any fault of his own because there hasn't been many players over the last decade at the club that give their all the way Murray Wallace has from Millwall. I'm sorry, I don't know if everyone agrees with that, but Murray Wallace on his day when he was fit and healthy gave absolutely everything for this club and come up big in massive games as well. He's been a real good player for the club. Exactly, yeah. He's been a real good servant, and he deserves a proper send-off other than cutting his contract in January. I think we need to see him last game of the season, pending on what that last game of the season has riding on it. But players like that need to have their day. But I do think we see some outgoings. I really do. But
I think it. Sorry, Jay. On the subject
go
of
on.
Wallace, it as I said earlier, we don't know what's going to happen next summer. We don't know what's going to happen in January. I know it's an obvious comment to make, but our club's going to come in for Tanganga. Our club's going to come in for Romain Esse. Are they going to be looking at our players and trying to cherry pick from us? Because that's what clubs in the Premier League do. They're at the bottom of the league. They're desperate for players. They're desperate to bring in goals or some defensive reinforcements to try and help them stay in the division. They look at the league below and go, who are the best players? Who are the top performing players? It really does depend. If we set our stall out and say to clubs, we are not selling anybody in January, unless obviously you get a ridiculous offer, then the club would have to take it. But
Yeah,
we're not selling anybody, and we're gonna try and maintain a push, towards this top six if that's what they want to do. That's when you start planning on, right, we need a bit of quality here, we need a bit of quality there. If you lose a player, it all changes.
No, it does.
Mickey's inciting a fucking bit of hate speeches, and Mickey.
It's Mickey. Someone said it earlier. This is a really positive show on a Friday night, and Mickey's starting to turn the needle a little bit. We won't bite, but let's move on to the main event then, because we've covered everything. So we'll move on to the final part of the show, which is where we'll pick our lineups and we'll give our predictions before we sign off. So we'll go around the room. We'll start with Stephen, Omar, and then back to myself, and we'll do what we normally do. Goalkeeper, we'll do back four, and so on and so forth. A lot more options than we've had in games previous. So, Stephen, start with you. It's probably an open and shut book for goalkeeper, but who's in goal tomorrow?
Yeah, Jensen got to, I think, starting to settle nicely now, I think. So, stick with him. Yeah.
Loved what he did at Leeds as well, giving it to the crowd.
Oh, yeah.
Proper giving them. Yeah, love that.
What they don't tell you about that though is that I saw this on Twitter. There was a video clip that they were absolutely harassing, like hounding him, giving him dog's abuse. Why? And then they don't like it at the end. They're like, "Oh yeah, come and give it at Ellen Road. Come and do this." And they start getting all shirty. I'm not. They give it the mouth. They got bit on the arse. Deal with it.
Yeah. Exactly. Omar?
Yeah.
Jensen?
Literally. I think he's gone from strength to strength, and I've loved seeing him play, mate. He just keeps going.
Been really, really good. I agree. I agree. As always, guys, get your teams in the chat, or just get your positions in the chat, and we'll put them up as well. But let's move on to the back four then, because there may be a little slight difference here. But Stephen, what's your back four then?
Leonard, Tanganga, Cooper, and as much as it pains me to say it, because the person I'm missing out has been excellent, Joe Bryan.
Okay. Interesting. Omar?
The same back four as it's been the last couple of games. I don't know why he's dropped Danny Mack, if I'm totally honest. I would keep Danny Mack at left back, personally.
Yeah, I'm going to say the same thing. There was someone that really annoyed me on Twitter. I can't remember their name, and if I could, I wouldn't expose you, because that's not fair. But I think Danny made like one misplaced pass or something, and the slander he was getting after he bottled the two of the best wingers in the league in back-to-back weeks. Like, I won't have it. Danny Mack is such a good professional. He never gets out. He doesn't get out of his prime, and then when he's called upon, he delivers a 9 out of 10 every time he's called upon. He knows his limitations. We know his limitations, but defensively, he's pound for pound the best one-on-one defender at the club, in my opinion.
Can I just say,
you've got a left-footed winger in front of him as well, and I think it's going to be probably
absolutely.
I'm totally happy with Danny Mack playing left back, and I think I'm fine with it.
Agree.
I would say that McNamara, every game he's played this year, he's been excellent. I'm not buying into the misplaced pass thing, because I did see that, Jay, and it's just absolutely ridiculous.
Someone really wants to say hello to Omar.
but if Sunderland are missing,
Rambo Ryan.
If Sunderland are missing the amount of players that we think that they are, and it's a game that we're expecting to be on the front foot and to go out and try and win the game, I think Joe Bryan to start with gives you a better opportunity going forward. I've got no issue if we can get ahead in the game, then get Danny on, shut out go for that, that's absolutely fine. And it's not a drop in Danny McNamara because he's done anything wrong. It's because I think Brian would put us on the front foot a little bit easier.
My
and
trouble with
more
that at the same
comfortable.
time, to counteract it, you're right, front foot forward, but then it leaves Jake Cooper isolated. That's the only thing I worry about with Cooper down that left-hand side. I think you need a Danny Matt next to him, to be honest, when I've seen, like, when Brian bombs forward, you've got a team that can come out. I know they've got injuries, but they've still got talent on their side. I just worry about leaving Jake Cooper too exposed on his own. I think Danny Matt offers him that kind of protection next to him.
That's where, in the team that I'm going to go with, I can kind of counter that to a certain extent.
One observation I've also noticed of games of late, have you seen when the left back does go forward, George Saville tends to sit in on the left-hand side? Does anyone notice that in games?
And that's also, when Leonard goes forward, Casper does it on the right-hand side.
I've noticed. So he seems to do it quite a bit. Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Midfield then. I assume, I think he's going to go 4-2-3-1. I don't know what you think, Stephen, but what do you think he is going to do? And then your midfield 2, if it is.
The 4, I think it'll be 4-2-3-1. I don't think he'll go 2 up front again. My midfield 2, the 2 centre mids, would actually be Sav and George Honeyman.
Oh, okay.
In the centre of midfield.
I think he's probably got. I think the chat might react to it, and I want to see him react, but I imagine he's got someone else further forward the pitch. I imagine, right?
Okay.
Maybe
we'll find out.
We'll find out. Omar, then on that bombshell, what are you gone with?
Oh, do you know what? I think you've got to keep the tried and tested. I don't know what state Billy Mitchell's at just yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing Mitchell and Denor. I know you guys touched on Denor's stats earlier in the show before I was on, and you know what? Like I do have to say, Denor, I've had a humble pie this season.
Here we go. This is what we want.
No. On the ball, I've never doubted, but off the ball, I've always thought. But especially that Burnley game, he's fucking ruling forward, winning interceptions on our thirds, like their third of the pitch, fucking pushing forwards, and I'm like, Denor. And do you know what? I don't want to. You credit the player for it, but the impact of like noticing how to play without the ball a bit more. He's developed and grown, and he's got better and better. I think he's been honestly unbelievable. So Denor. I think probably keep Denor and Sav, but Mitchell's going to hopefully feature, I imagine, and hopefully get into the side at some point soon.
Yeah, I agree. And look, for those fantasy people that follow the Fantasy EFL show, Casper Denor actually leads all championship midfielders for points. He gets them interceptions, gets them tackles. He's in my team this week. He's been key. I am going to say it's the tried and tested George Saville and Casper Denore. I think we go back to that. Let's not overthink it. I hope Harris doesn't overthink it. There's no need to. There's a problem where you have these breaks. And you can overthink it as a manager or overcoach it and get it so wrong, trying to get it so right. Don't go too deep into it. Casper and Sav, that's got to be it for me. And then you have got Billy that can come on if you need him. So I don't think you'll ever start Billy because you wouldn't throw him straight in like that. I'd like to think you wouldn't. But yeah, you have got the option. So yeah, definitely go with them too. To be honest, yeah, I'll just see what you did there. I was about to do it. Brilliant. So, I know. Yeah,
can't comment on certain words tonight in our chat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, fucking slander. You get
slander.
You get us thrown fed. I agree. So then, all right, then, Stephen, you've gone with a 4-2-3-1, which we all three of us have. Again, guys, get it in the comments. Who's your 3 then? Could there be some changes here?
No, I've just switched. Omar got it basically earlier. I'd put Casper Denor in the 10. SA on the right, Aziz on the left. And the reason why I would do that is because I think as good as Casper's been in terms of interceptions and he's off the ball, the goal at Swansea tells you everything you need to know the difference between having a George Honeyman in the 10 and a Casper Denor in the 10. A confident footballer, someone who's confident in his ability on the ball. He took his goal really, really well. And I think we could see more of that. I also think it does drop you can drop Casper into the midfield and have a 3 if you're up against it and you need to go a bit more defensive, or you need to hold some shape. And I also think that Denor's the one player in the Millwall team that can pick a pass. And I think in the 10, you've got the perfect opportunity to feed it to the 2 wide players or feed it through to Coburn. I think I'm not stupid. I think that it will be switched and Casper will play in the centre and Honeyman will be in the 10. But I would love to see Casper get a run of games just further forward, just to have a look at what he can do.
Yeah, no, fair.
And
fair
the 2
points,
wide
good
boys
points
speak
as well.
for them. The 2 wide players speak for themselves. SA's our best player. Let's be honest. He's so much better technically than anybody else that we've got. And Femi Aziz is making me look more and more stupid every week. And long may it continue. Much like Omar,
all of us.
Humble pie. I've made some outrageous comments on him. I got slaughtered on Twitter for saying that I can't believe he's a professional footballer. Proving me wrong. Absolutely superb for the last month, and long may it continue.
Absolutely. Omar, what you got for us then?
I think he'll be Honeyman in the 10. What I'd want, I'd probably want to go 2 up top, and I'd want Coburn and Langstaff. That's what I'd want. And then I'd have Aziz and SA. But I suspect it'll be Honeyman in the 10, back in the side after being rested against Stoke. And SA and Aziz either side. And well, obviously, I said Coburn already. He'll probably out front, won't he, I imagine? So that's what I suspect the team will be, mate.
Yeah, and these type of comments from Rainbow Ryan will get himself banned very, very quickly. And the Keir Starmer comment from someone else. Fucking Keir Starmer. Absolute nonsense. What, as Mickey would say, utter woke nonsense. Look, I agree. I'm Honeyman, SA, Aziz. Aziz, I think, has been fucking brilliant. You cheeky bastard, Chris. I really like Chris. We get on really well as well, for in other sports. I'm really sad now. Aziz has been brilliant. I think he's come on really, really well. Key in the game against Leeds, thought he was fantastic. Burnley the same, and Swansea, he's popped up with some big moments. So 100%, Aziz. I'm going with Coburn up front as well. I think, look, for what we said earlier, he's clearly Harris's number 1. He clearly is, and probably rightly so. The way we said before you come on, Omar, the way that he led the line when he come on against Leeds, I don't think we see that game out without Coburn's interaction to that game. He got us up the field. He was strong. He knew exactly where to go with the ball at the right time. He was fantastic. 2 goals in 3 games. Challenged that big centre-half pairing of Ballard and Sirkin, who's a very, very good defender, arguably a top 3 defender in this league in Sirkin. So I think Coburn will give him a lot of problems. So that is what I'm going to go with. And I take it you two have said anyway the same.
On that, sorry, Joe, just so you mentioned about him coming on. When he came off at Stoke, it was very noticeable his presence being missing. The ball absolutely came back afterwards. I criticised the side for it afterwards, and I think it was more because I just thought he had a poor game when he came on, to be honest. Not that I'm saying he's shit or anything, but he was shit when he came on. So, but Coburn just had the knack of getting his body in the way, winning the ball, holding it up, and then bringing other players into play. And we didn't see that from the Serb. And I think that's what the Serb's got to learn about his game before he can get sustained running the side. And hopefully we'll learn from the likes of Coburn as it goes on. But Coburn, mate, he's been a big miss. And, we still managed to get results without him. And then he's come back in and it's just added another dynamic to us. It's exciting, massively exciting.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I would say I never actually said the striker. It would be Coburn. I think that's the obvious pick for all of us. I think Omar said it. I would love to see, if we're going to go with 2 up front, I'd love to see Langstaff and Coburn. That 2 for me is a 2 that would work.
Oh, absolutely.
I think Harris played 2 up front at Stoke as an opportunity to get them minutes in the legs. It wasn't. I genuinely don't think he really at the moment is going to change a system that's earned us 4 wins in a row. And do you know what I mean? I just don't see the change. But if we do go down that route, then by all means get Coburn and Langstaff to get up front together.
Definitely.
Yeah. 100%. If he does want to go 2 up top, you got to try that surely, because Langstaff scored all them goals having someone next to him like that, and you got them visions of that Steve Morris and Lee Gregory type relationship. You know, I'd love to see it personally. I don't think Bradshaw, but then even, you know, Bradshaw's never really played up front with anybody. And, you know, as much as I don't really want to see Bradshaw play, you know, if Harris thinks it's going to work, who are we to question Harris at the moment? I think he's earned that right to allow us to do that.
What I would say, and it's the only saving grace for Tom Bradshaw, that if he starts and he starts in a 2, then I think it'll be. I think he might have a little bit more involvement in the game, because he's always had to be winning the flick-ons and doing all the donkey work. I just think that could work. I just don't really want to see it.
Yeah, I agree. And as Ryan says, let him cook. Absolutely, let him cook. Yeah, okay. So we've come to the end of the show now. We've been going for a while and we've covered everything, but let's cover our predictions then. As we said, look, Sunderland are reeling a little bit. They've got all them players that I named earlier out or allegedly out. They come off the back of dropping some points already in the capital. It's going to be a miserable day at the Den tomorrow. There's warnings of storms, of snow, of this, of that. Not going to be a nice journey down. Where do we go? What is it? What's the score going to be? And who's your scorers, if any?
1-0 for the Millwall. 1-0 for the Millwall. 1-0 to the Millwall boys. That's better, isn't it? 1-0. There you go. I'll get it going. South Lower. I'll see you there. 1-0.
Arsenal got ridiculed for being that type of team, wasn't it?
Well, do you know what?
Like, 1-0, wasn't it?
We went 1-0 up at Stoke and I was like, get it going. I was like, there you go. That'll do. I was like, it would have been 5 in a row, wouldn't it? I mean, look, I think it's made for us to win 1-0. And do you know what?
Who scores then?
Starboy's going to get his goal. There you go. No goal from Starboy.
I just want to remind you that at the beginning of the season, when we did our predictions, I had SA down as, did I say he was going to get most assists or most goals? I think I had SA down as top goal scorer.
Did you?
I think I did. We'll have to look back at that. But no, okay sure then, Stephen. I think I did. I think I've got it written down somewhere. I hope you saved it.
2-0.
What you got, Steve?
2-0.
2-0, yeah?
2-0 Millwall. Yeah, I can't. I'm going to shoot myself in the foot here, and I know what I'm going to get here, but I honestly can't see us not winning the game tomorrow. I really cannot see us not winning.
I agree.
So I think we'll see. Let's try and be a little bit different. Let's go. Well, SA will get one of the goals, and do you know what? First goal for the club, Femi Aziz.
Femi Aziz, I like that because that was going to be my prediction as well. I say that we're going to win 3-0. And I think Aziz scores 2 tomorrow and George Saville pops up with a goal as well. I think it might be a penalty and I think Saville might be on penalty duty.
I was going to say, just before we go, you've already given your one. So in our current team, who we think is going to play, Omar, who's on penalties? And the chat, who's on penalties? Jay's gone Saville.
I think Saville is. I think he's that guy.
Fuck me. Yeah. Whoa. On my team, I don't know. Give it to Jensen. Fuck it. Just get Jensen to have a go. I reckon Leonard could take a penalty, you know. I fancy Leonard take a penalty.
Good.
Leonard would be, he just run in and lamp it, wouldn't he?
I just think Saville, because Saville's took penalties for us before.
Yeah.
You know, and I think if Saville was to miss, I don't think Saville would get as much hate as if he stuck Aziz on a penalty and he missed, for instance. That's going to be all on Harris. If he stuck Saville on a penalty and Saville misses, it's, well, who else was going to take it? You know, I honestly think that, don't sleep on Aziz. He's been close. Last couple of weeks, he's been close. And he's got in his locker and he's playing well.
Wide, mate, at Stoke, and he's pacing trying to get fullback.
And West Brom, and West Brom as well. So
very far corner.
Yeah, no.
The only other player for me on pens, Casper De Norre. I reckon he'd be solid from 12 yards.
Yeah, finesse. I think he's just got that technique. Penalties sometimes you've got to have some technique in you. But okay, then we've wrapped up the international break. We've wrapped up the transfer window. We've wrapped up the injuries. We've wrapped up Sunderland. So your predictions are in, my predictions are in. Remember to do your prediction league if you're in the prediction league as well. There was some issues with that, but I think that's been resolved. So remember to do that. Watford, I believe, at the moment are winning against Plymouth. Could the writing be on the wall for Plymouth? Frank Lampard is set to take over at Coventry. And with that, any final thoughts from yourself, Stephen?
If Frank Lampard is taken over at Coventry and Joe Edwards is on his coaching staff, we played him in 2 weeks' time, so that'll be very interesting. Millwall to win tomorrow, and it's the start of what's going to be a very good week for the Lions, in my opinion. And it's only because I'm going to all three.
Love that. Love that. Omar?
Yeah, can't echo that anymore. I'm less confident tomorrow than I think you two are about the game. I don't know why. I think with the international break and stuff, like I mentioned earlier on, I still think we'll do the business. Like I said, 1-0 win, but I don't think it's set up as how we hope it will be with the injuries and stuff. It's going to be a slog still. We'll have to earn it, but I think we will. Fingers crossed. And yeah, roll on next week as well. Pompey, Oxford's, Comedy Lions.
Yeah, no, big week. And I think the only thing I worry about, the only thing that might have a dampener on whether we win or not tomorrow is the fact that they've got so many players out, and how much film is there for Harris to watch to gauge what these players that are going to be replacing them like. You know, that's that's what it is. But no, final thoughts from me. Look, as Dan, as I just put Dan's comment up, yogurt. As Stephen and Omar said, look, big week. There's a lot of optimism around the club. Let's keep it going. A win tomorrow will surely set us on our way. We're getting healthy. We've got togetherness. It's going to be a really, really shit day down at the Den tomorrow in terms of weather. But let's all get down there. Let's show our support. Let's engineer a win. And with that, we'll see you on the next one. But please like, please share, please subscribe. And Chris, yes, we will be back doing Millwall on a Sunday morning at 11:30 p.m. So to recap the game. So yeah, like to see you all there. And with that, like I said, please like, please share, please subscribe, and we will see you on the next one.